Is the C8 Corvette still worth it? We have cars that have come out after the Z06, of course, like the E-Ray and soon to be the ZR1. So is this car still worth it? This is the 2023 C8 Corvette Z06. This is my car. I've owned this car now for going on 2 years. And I'll be honest with you, it's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best cars I've ever driven. And every time I get behind the wheel, I'm reminded of the fact that this thing is just light years better than most cars on the road. Not even just regular cars, but a lot of the supercars. I mean, this thing is an absolute beast. I have it modded out. Of course, I've got a bunch of stuff on it and it just makes it better and better and better. The C8 platform in general is a really good platform for mods. Not necessarily power mods, but I do have, even though I do have some of those on here, it's more so just aesthetic, make it your car kind of mods. And I love it. I mean, I've got this car lowered on wheels, of course, looks great. RSC carbon fiber everywhere. We got some power adders like Sport Cats, the Eventuri intake, and even an exhaust from AWE, but nothing crazy. Just things to put it kind of over the top, so to speak. So 670 horsepower from factory, and with the mods, I'm probably closer to 710, 720 to the crank. That's only part of the reason why we're here discussing this car today, because in 2025, is the C8 Corvette still worth it? I'm not gonna do the typical YouTube thing and make you wait until the end. I'm gonna give you my answer to that question right now. Is this car still worth it in 2025? And the answer is a resounding absolutely. So if you guys saw my previous video when I did a review on this, my 1-year review talking about how great the car was, really, that's what the review really was. Very, very few negative things to talk about with this car, but one of the bigger negatives at that time was that these things were really hard to find. If you did find one, you were still likely to pay over MSRP for it. Those days are gone. You can now get especially a 2023 or a 2024 used C8 Corvette, you're gonna pay $20,000 to $30,000 less than what these things were brand new. The prices are coming way down. And with that, even the brand new cars are being sold for 10 or so under MSRP. These cars are very available now. That makes them even better. I mean, I hear a lot of people complaining that it's hurting their resale value and blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you buy a car like this for the resale value, you've already lost, in my opinion. But if you buy this car to enjoy it, right now is the best time to do so. I've been asked 100 times what I think about the E-Ray, if I'm gonna get a ZR1, all of these questions, and it's hard to answer some of these questions without knowing a little bit more about what we're getting into. But for the E-Ray conversation, I will tell you that in my personal opinion, this is the better bang for the buck right here. Now, there is one thing and one thing only that the E-Ray has over the C8 Z06, and that is tunability. You can't tune this car. You can tune an E-Ray, and since you can tune an E-Ray, you can build an E-Ray pretty freaking crazy. If you're looking for that out-of-the-box track experience car, this is it. Look no further. This is the best out-of-the-box track experience car I have ever driven in my life. You do not have to touch a single thing on this car if all you're looking to do is do some serious driving with it. Now, with that said, obviously I've done a lot of things to the car because I like to make my cars mine, but at the same time, if I was looking to build an absolute ridiculous drag strip car, this wouldn't be it. It would be an E-Ray because of the all-wheel drive, the launching ability, and the tunability. This is a track car, not a drag strip car. Now, with that said, you could take this to the drag strip and you're gonna put down some decent numbers with it. It's not like stock for stock, the E-Ray is going to absolutely crush this car at the drag strip, but it is faster at the drag strip if you're looking for every absolute second. Now, with all of that said, what you guys are probably really here to hear is whether or not this car is still worth it in 2025 whenever we have the ZR1 right on the horizon. That is the question, of course. That is the question, because I have a #1 allocation out of a big dealership for a ZR1. And I'll put it to you this way. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to take that allocation. Now, before I get a million questions and a million emails saying, Justin, if you don't take it, can I take it? I can't give it away. This allocation is built for me, and if I don't take it, it goes back into the allotment of allocations, basically. So I can't give it to anybody. I can't sell it to anybody. I either take the car or I don't. There are multiple reasons why I'm leaning towards buying the ZR1 and multiple reasons why I'm leaning towards letting it go and just keeping the Z06. I can't keep both cars. They're far too expensive. I'm I'm not a millionaire here, so I'd have to get rid of this car to get the ZR1. And I'm asking myself, is it worth the extra money? This car I bought at MSRP for, I believe it was $146,000. The spec that I would be going with my ZR1 would be roughly $210 to $215. Is it worth the extra $70,000 for a car that looks pretty much identical, performs obviously better because of the extra performance, but also weighs more, which that's one of the things I like the most about the Z06 is the weight is a lot lower than even the E-Ray or the ZR1, and you can feel that a lot in the turns. I am so happy with the way this thing turned out that I don't know that I just want to sell it. Yeah, that's where we're at. So in 2025, the C8 Corvette Z06 still has me wondering whether or not I should even be chasing a ZR1. That's how good this car is. So if you're sitting back and wondering the same thing, you know, do I want to get a Z06 or do I want to save that extra money and really possibly strap myself for cash to get the ZR1? I say get the Z06. I'm so torn on it myself that I don't know that I would even necessarily get a ZR1 if I didn't have a YouTube channel. The ZR1, of course, is the next iteration of performance craziness in the C8 lineup, but at the same time, if I didn't need one or want to talk about one on a daily basis with you guys and keep my channel growing, I would say this is the end game right here. Yeah, I can't even really believe those words are coming out of my mouth. I'm a big fan of a ZR1 in general and a big fan of performance. Obviously, you're on a channel called Horsepower Obsessed, and I'm telling you not to go for the higher horsepower car. I'm a fraud. Now, of course, one of the biggest selling points of the ZR1 is going to be the new 1,064 horsepower turbocharged LT7 engine that is also a flat plane crank. Like I said earlier, I'm not here to discount that by any means because that is an absolute accomplishment. That is an absolute boss of a car. But let's not discount the 670 horsepower naturally aspirated flat plane crank in the Z06 either. Both of which are an absolute astounding success on every level. Again, do you want the naturally aspirated sound or do you want the turbocharged sound? Not that either one is necessarily better than the other, but I will tell you, in my opinion, the naturally aspirated one is going to sound better every day, all day. The turbos naturally muffle the sound of that beautiful flat plane crank, and you're not going to get the exact same sound out of it. Now, is it going to be a bad sound? Of course not. Don't get me wrong. It's just going to be different. I don't know how much you're going to be crying about the difference in sound whenever you have an additional 380 horsepower, but it is still something to consider. Along with that extra 380 horsepower and turbocharged engine does come additional weight as well. Are you willing to give up the more lighter weight platform of the C8 Z06? Not that this thing is lightweight by any means, but it is lighter weight than the ZR1's going to be. That's something to consider as well. Seriously though, guys, I mean, look at this thing. This is without a doubt one of the best looking Corvettes that Chevy has ever built, in my opinion, of course. I literally can't open the door to my garage without getting excited to see this thing. I mean, it is just absolutely gorgeous, and every time we add on an additional appearance mod or an additional performance mod, it just makes it even better. I don't know. Now, with all of this said, the ZR1 is not going to be any kind of slouch. Don't get me wrong. I am not here to downplay a ZR1 because that thing is going to be an absolute monster. But is it worth $75,000 difference in price, assuming you can even get it at MSRP, which is going to be difficult to do, especially in the beginning? Is it worth $75K over this car? You may even be able to get this car for less than what I paid, and then it's even more over. Is it worth it? Especially if you add in over MSRP markups, is it worth it then? Because you're going to be seeing 50, 100, 150K over MSRP as well. So you're talking about almost $200,000 more than this car if you factor in some of these crazy markups that some people are willing to pay. Is it worth that money? I'm not going to say yes or no for you guys, but I will say no for me. If I get a ZR1, just know it is not something you have to do. This car is more than enough. And honestly, it's gonna hurt me to get rid of this car because I have literally poured my soul into this thing. When you look at this car, the mods, the setup, everything about this car is me. This is my vision on what this car should have looked like from factory, should have performed like from factory. It's hard to get rid of that stuff. I guess I'm too sentimental. Once I get a car, it's hard for me to sell it. And this one is without a doubt the hardest one I've ever even contemplated selling because of how freaking awesome it is. All right, guys, so there you have it. Is the C8 Corvette Z06 worth it still? It's a resounding yes from me. Now, I am obviously an owner, so other people out there Now, I am obviously an owner of a Z06, so other people out there may give you their answers as well that may not even own a car like this. And if they don't own this, their answers are going to be different. I promise you that, because this is not a car you can speculate on. You have to experience this thing. I hate to sound like I'm that guy, but this is an experience. It's that simple. Every time you get behind the wheel, it is just completely different than what you remember from yesterday. And I swear to God, that's the case. Driving it today, I haven't driven this car in about a month and a half. I literally forgot how fast this car was. I forgot how good this car was. So on the way down here, I'm thinking of the talking points of this video, and I'm thinking, oh, I'll say this, I'll say that. I haven't said a single thing that I had planned on saying on the way down here because I totally forgot how amazing this thing is. So again, guys, the choice is really always up to you, but I wanted to give you my input. This car is more than enough for 99.999% of the people out there. If you have a lot of money that you don't care about and you want the top dog performance, of course, go with that ZR1, possibly the Zorro when it comes out. But if you're looking for just an absolute raw track car that is going to make you smile every time you get behind the wheel, this is it. And you can save a bunch of money on one right now too. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. This car is a fantastic piece of machinery. I give this an absolute yes for is it still worth it. Anyway, guys, that's it for the video. If you liked what you saw, please smash the thumbs up button. Let me know you're liking the content so we can keep producing this kind of stuff for you. I enjoy talking about this car because I love the thing. I love working on it. I love looking at it. I love doing everything with it. So if you love it as much as I do, smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And as always, guys, stay obsessed.